For years, Australians have been hearing the same message. Everything is getting more expensive. And while inflation gets most of the attention, there's another trend hiding in plain sight on supermarket shelves. A trend that doesn't always raise the price, but still leaves consumers paying more for what they get. It's called shrinkflation. And once you see it, you'll start noticing it everywhere. Imagine walking into Coles, Woolworths, or your local supermarket. You reach for your favorite chocolate bar. Same brand, same packaging, and at first glance, it looks exactly the same. But what if the amount inside isn't? What if the product you're buying today contains less than it did a few years ago? Not enough to be obvious, but enough to make a difference. That's the idea behind shrinkflation, a practice where the size or quantity of a product is reduced, while the packaging and overall price remain similar. And it's surprisingly easy to miss. Most shoppers don't stand in supermarket aisles comparing weights and measurements. They recognize the packaging, they trust the brand, and they put the product into their trolley. That's why even a small reduction can go unnoticed. A few grams less in a chocolate bar, a smaller serving size, a slightly lighter package. Each change seems tiny on its own, but across millions of purchases, those small changes add up. For many Australian households, every dollar matters. Families compare specials, students watch their budgets, parents try to make the weekly grocery shop stretch a little further. That's why people often feel frustrated when they discover a product has become smaller without them realizing it. Not because the product disappeared overnight, but because the change happened so quietly. Many consumers simply expect that if a product looks the same, it will offer roughly the same value. When that expectation changes, trust can be affected. The next time you're shopping, take a closer look. Check the weight printed on the package. Compare it with older versions if you can. You might notice products that now contain less cereal, less chocolate, fewer biscuits, less coffee, or smaller snack portions. The packaging often remains familiar, which is exactly why the changes can be difficult to spot. And that's what makes shrinkflation so effective. So why do companies do it? Businesses face rising costs, just like everyone else. Ingredients become more expensive, transport costs change, packaging costs increase, energy prices fluctuate. When those costs rise, companies generally have a few options. They can increase prices, reduce costs elsewhere, or reduce the amount of product being sold. In some cases, reducing quantity is seen as a way to avoid a noticeable price increase on the shelf. It's important to note that shrinkflation itself isn't necessarily illegal. Companies are allowed to change product sizes. The debate is really about transparency and consumer awareness. Should shoppers be expected to notice these changes themselves, or should companies make them more obvious? That's a question many consumers continue to ask. The next time you visit a supermarket, don't just look at the price. Look at the weight, look at the quantity, look at the value you're actually getting. Because sometimes the biggest changes aren't the ones you can see immediately. They're the ones hidden in plain sight. Have you noticed shrinkflation in Australia? Tell us in the comments. And if you enjoy videos that uncover the hidden stories behind everyday products, business practices, and consumer trends, subscribe to the channel.